With all of these new Star Wars projects coming out, I think it would be really fun to see Disney and Lucasfilm greenlight a movie based on Star Wars Death Troopers, which is a Legends book written by Joe Schreiber that tells the story of Project Blackwing. It's a virus created from Sith alchemy from the Old Republic days that Darth Vader and the Emperor try to bring back to life. The project goes terribly wrong and zombies end up taking over an entire Star Destroyer. Now, a movie like this would be incredibly graphic and definitely pretty violent, so I don't ever see Disney ever distributing a movie like this, but let's pretend for a second that 20th Century Studios, the home of the first 6 Star Wars films and also now owned by Disney, were to greenlight a one-off Star Wars horror movie titled Star Wars Death Troopers based on the book, which would allow them to get away with that R rating and make something that is not directly connected to the rest of the Star Wars canon under Disney, but be a little more in the spirit of the Joker movie they made back in 2019 with Joaquin Phoenix. Now, I have no business being a casting director whatsoever, but if I were given the opportunity to cast all of the actors I would like to see in these roles, here's who I would pick. First, we're going to start off with Trig and Kale Longo. Now, the whole story starts off with these two as they are both brothers. How they find their way onto the zombie Star Destroyer that drifts through space is on this Imperial prison barge called the Purge. Now, a quick look on Wikipedia tells me that Trig is roughly about 15, 16 years old, and his older brother Kale, we don't really know. If it says so in the book, I cannot remember, but I could not find anything about an exact age for him. So Trig specifically, I would have to go with Finn Wolfhard. Now, according to Wikipedia, Finn is about 19 years old, so give or take about 3 or 4 years older than the character. However, if we can have a 60-year-old Tamara Morrison playing a 30-year-old Boba Fett, then I think we'll be okay. Now, the reason that I've picked Finn Wolfhard for this role specifically is because he's been in similar TV shows and movies such as Stranger Things and Ghostbusters Afterlife. As for Kale Longo, I would have to go with Timothée Chalamet. Similar to Wolfhard, I feel like that Timothée Chalamet has had experience in playing characters in other movies that could translate well into a horror Star Wars universe. The obvious one would be his role in Dune, as Dune and Star Wars are similar in a lot of ways and compared by a lot of people. He also plays a cannibal in a movie called Bones and All, and I feel like that would give him a lot of credibility in the scene where Kale ends up getting infected and tries to eat Trig. So I feel like that would just be great. And if you look at the two of them side by side, I mean, it's mostly the hair, but you can kind of see where they could pass as brothers. And given that Timothy is about, give or take, 5 or 6, 7 years older than Finn Wolfhard, I think that it would work. Next up, we have Sartoris, which I know this actor doesn't look like him, but I would have to personally go with Idris Elba. And the reason why is because every movie I've seen him in is kind of like rough around the edges, gritty action character that I feel like would go perfectly with Sartoris, considering that he spends most of the book by himself. He tosses a bunch of Imperials out of a shuttle. He goes through the entire Star Destroyer by himself. He's running through the Purge by himself. I feel like he would embody the character of Sartoris. And that's all I have to say about that. As for the role of Han Solo and Chewbacca, I would give that to Alden Ehrenreich and Jonas Suotamo, since they've already played the characters in Solo: A Star Wars Story, and I really don't see that getting a sequel. Both Solo: A Star Wars Story and Death Troopers take place close enough in the timeline, so it makes perfect sense. Next up, we have Bryce Dallas Howard as Dr. Zahara Cody. I picked Bryce for this role simply just because I love what she's done with The Mandalorian, and I would really love to see her in a Star Wars movie. Hell, let her direct it too. I bet she could make it great. Why the hell not? And that leaves us with one last character, which is Zahara Cody's droid named Waste. I could not think of one for this because this would be primarily a voice role. However, I think I would give this to Ryan Reynolds, I guess. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I feel like maybe that's a bad idea. Let me know in the comments who you think should voice Waste. And as a bonus, this isn't really a character, but I would love to see this. And I'm basing this mostly off of I Am Legend, as they hired a death metal singer to scream all of the zombie screams. So why not? Let's give that to Jonathan Davis of Korn. I feel like if you know the song Twist, he could add a good zombie growl, and while we're at it, he could even voice the sickness itself, singing to Chewbacca the true songs of Life Day. I would buy the soundtrack if that were the case, but that's just me. And of course, these are my own personal picks that I think would be the most fun to see as these characters. However, I have no business being a casting director, as I said before. I would love to know who all you would cast in this movie if it were to be greenlit. Thank you so very much if you've made it to the end of this video. I appreciate you so very much. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful day. May the Force be with you.